Finishing up some weekend work on the she shed, and I want to do my last review of Preppercamp, finishing out the month of October, which was knowledge. And there were other classes that I took that I haven't reviewed, and I just ran out of time. There was one on raising rabbits that was very good, and one on beekeeping that I really enjoyed. But the one I want to talk about today probably made the biggest impression on me, and that was a class called Getting Home. It was taught by a man named Matt Sirni, and you can find him at preppercoach.com. And evidently he is a professional coach for preppers. I don't think it's his daytime job, but he teaches people how to be better at prepping. And this class was on getting home, something that if you're one of my 5 faithful subscribers, you know that I take very serious. I have a 153-mile trip to my work, another 153 miles back, and I worry about getting home quickly in event of some calamity that means I need to find another way of getting home besides the car and the roads. So I went to this class, frankly, thinking that I pretty much knew this subject. I kind of went for my wife. I wanted her to get another point of view of the whole getting home scenario, and I don't know, maybe take it a little more serious. I think it's not taken serious enough by most people. Everybody talks about bugging out. I think getting home is going to be the biggest thing. He talked a lot about 9/11. He showed pictures. He talked about people on 9/11 walking home, dirty, dusty, in high heel shoes and fancy loafers, and some of them walked 30 miles. I hadn't thought about that, but they did. And he talked about how just unprepared those people were, and he used his own situation to teach a lot of thoughtful lessons and to bring up some interesting points. He talked about his wife. She works in the city. I'm not sure what city, but upper New York. And the biggest geographical barrier between her work and home is a river. He talks about how they've discussed her route, they've driven her route, they've walked some of her route, and they've agreed that this river is job one when it comes time to get home. And even if it takes multiple days to get home, getting across that river is the first thing. He talked about the dry run. And what he meant by this is you're at work and something happens. And, if you think back to the morning of 9/11, the first plane hit, and even those of us who knew it was a large, commercial jet, and not some little, Piper Cub, nobody did anything. As a matter of fact, the people in the towers were told to keep working, the ones in the other tower, that they didn't need to evacuate. And he talked about how when something happens that your spidey senses start tingling, go ahead and take action, even if it ends up being a dry run. Now, how do you do that? You can't go screaming out of the building every time something happens on Fox News and tell your boss you're going home because the world's ending. No, this is what you do. He said his wife has actually practiced this. You get a phone call, you pretend to get a phone call even, and you say, my kid's sick. My kid's puking, projectile vomiting at daycare. I've got to go. My kid's at school and doesn't feel well. My husband's been in an accident. I've got to go. Or in my case, my mom's fallen. I've got to go. You're not going to get any flack from your coworkers or your boss, and you go. Worst thing that happens is it is a dry run. You get a little bit of practice, and you go back to work. In his case, with his wife, her job is to get across that river. Get across the river, find out the situation wasn't bad as we thought. You know what? Go back to work. He talked about using unconventional ways of getting home. Once again, thinking about that river. He and his wife had actually, walked the bridges that went across, and he decided that it was very possible that those bridges might be shut down in some sort of, terrible incident. So he's looking at other ways of getting across that river, unconventional ways of getting home, and I can certainly see his point there. I mean, my plan A is to procure a canoe or kayak and to come home via the Intercoastal Waterway. That's my plan A. I think it's a great plan because I don't think many people would be doing that. I think I'll be alone most of the time. I think I'd avoid anything that was going on the roads. And he really thought that was a good idea to look at unconventional methods of getting home. Under alternative and unconventional ways of getting home, he talked about railroad tracks. He talked about, like I said, the boat. He talked about right-of-ways for power lines and gas lines and stuff like that. And those are things that I've considered, and I know a lot of y'all have too. He talked about women, and he talked about how he wanted his daughters and his wife in a get-home situation to ugly up. Put your hair up, get rid of the makeup, ball cap, loose-fitting clothing, ugly up, look like a guy. And if you go back and look at my get-home kit for my wife, you see that a ball cap and a loose-fitting rain jacket in camouflage is part of her get-home wardrobe. The less you look like a female, the better. We all know that. I mean, I'm not saying anything that you don't know. Some of the takeaways I want to mention. He said he felt like preppers would have up to a 24-hour head start over most people getting home because not only are we looking for it, but we already have a plan. He felt like looking at, not just 9/11, but other scenarios, people tend to, kind of just stop and wonder what to do and go inactive. Whereas if you have a plan, especially if you understand the dry run and you believe there's nothing wrong with the dry run, that preppers will have that 24-hour head start. And if that's true, that's wonderful. One interesting idea he had was to get a larger backpack than you need. Now, this goes against what I normally preach because I feel like the larger backpack you get, the more stuff you're going to find to put in it. But here's his thinking. You get a larger backpack than what you need so that it doesn't look full. He's got a point. If you're especially a woman and you're trying to remain unobserved, maybe a backpack that doesn't look like you're geared up and ready to go is good. I still tend to think as human beings we fill up anything that's not full. But it's a good point. So that was the last class I'm going to review. It's the end of the month, and I'm trying to get better about stopping and starting with the month. So what we're going to do is we're going to end this thing out, have a little contest, and if you want to enter the contest, please subscribe, be a subscriber, and below here in the comments, tell me what class, and I'm not talking about the classes I took. If you were going to go to a prepper event, what class would you want to see offered? What is the class that you most would like to take? What class would draw you to a prepper event? You just list one, or you can list 5, but just list one and you'll be entered. And we'll have some idiotic way of picking a winner later later in the week or so. But thank you for watching. This has been an interesting month for me. I've learned a lot.